It said American Gypsy, so we like gather on the TV and we watch it, and we were like, whoa.
Oh, what?
Play, y'all shut the our women shut
You told me I'm no! You're up in the brain!
I mean, we've all seen the shows. The chaos, the drama, the fights, the trashiness, the over-the-top weddings and dresses. This is what the TLC Gypsy shows are all about. And they're presented by TLC, their learning channel, as sort of a mini documentary series showing an inside look in the American Romanichal community. That is the culture they claim to represent, the Romanichal. However, what if I told you that they were misrepresenting an entire culture with a fake and staged show that is actually a racist depiction of Romanichal culture? What is presented as this authentic and real representation of Romanichal culture and their weddings, their functions, everything about that culture is actually an inauthentic caricature filled with non-Romani actors and staged events. And today we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how they fake these shows and what the actual real Romanichal culture is. Davin Bachtale, my name is Florian, I'm a Romani person, and this is Romani history by a Romani person, or should I say, Romani people, because today we are joined by Alexis Stanley, who is a Romanichal American from a traditional Romanichal community that is determined to fix this representation of her people that has occurred for so long. But first of all, what even are the Romanichal people? A lot of people seem to think that this is a lifestyle. People choose to live this way. People choose to be gypsies, which is in fact a racial slur. However, Romanichal people are an actual ethnicity and culture with deep roots. In fact, they are a subgroup of the Romani people, a people group originating in India. However, you wouldn't be able to tell that from the shows. They actually have their own Romani dialect.
Rumnus. Someone asked me, like, do you speak Rumnus? I'd say, Av, mi rakarav Rumnus.
Or Anglo-Romani, which is a mixture of the Romani language, Romanes, an Indian language, and the vocabulary from that language with English grammar.
I say that there's 4 levels to Romanichal language. One is broken Anglo-Romani. Anglo-Romani, where only every few words is English, and then full Romanichal language, and then the 4th level, the highest level, is like the accent. Or like some words that literally have not changed, like besh, panny, those words have not changed and they're still used. Pretty much all of the counting, Yak, Dewey, Drin, Star, Spanish, we all have Indian roots.
The Romanichal are a completely different ethnicity from the travelers, who are indigenous European traveling groups.
People think that travelers are Romanichal, and travelers and Romanichal are 2 different people. I'm not going to deny that some travelers have Romanichal ancestry, and of course, travelers and Romanichal in England have like overlays and traditions. Their Vardo are basically the same. But I think it's important for people to know the difference, and I think it's important for people to come out and say, well, I'm half Romanichal and I'm also this.
The Romanichal are the Romani subgroup who settled in England. Now they live all over the English-speaking world. Specifically in America, a lot of Romanichal came to the United States in the late 1800s, such as Alexis's family. She comes from the Stanley clan, which is a very famous Romanichal clan and a very big Romanichal family. And their Romani name is actually Beshali. Like many Romani groups around the world, they took on non-Romani names as a way of protecting themselves from the persistent anti-Roma racism that existed in their societies. The well-known Romanichal clans in the United States are the Cooper clan, or the Vardo Mescro, or the Laval, or the Camulo.
A lot of the Romanichal in New England are associated with Rosendale, Washington Street, and Boston. Some of the locals, the older locals, call it Gypsy Hill because it's where a majority of our ancestors stayed during the winter. I feel like there should be a plaque on Washington Street, Rosendale, because the Romani people owned 2 entire blocks and operated business there, and that was like everyone went everywhere, but we'd all meet up in the same place, and that was Washington, Rosendale. So we'd still kind of identify with the Romanichal in England, and they actually have their own horse breed. An English cob was bred to have black and white patches and like long hair at the hooves. And the black and white, I learned, old Romanichal believed that any animals with black and white were a symbol of good luck because it was like the split difference between good and evil.
Unlike what is shown on TLC, the Romanichal culture, like all other Romani cultures, is a very conservative and traditional culture that places a high emphasis on family, respecting your elders, and presentability, the way you show up for others.
It's those stereotypes, and just stereotypes of like, you know, Romani people being like messy and sloppy, and the TLC people were messy and sloppy to me. Messy, sloppy, swearing, fighting, and that is fed into the stereotype, and it's not how we act. And it was really sad to see, because again, we believe in good representation and acting right and being presentable, and the TV show did not show that. Things that show Romanichal identity is being able to, no matter what predicament you're in, you are able to have always show up dressed appropriately and be able to turn a dollar. My aunt always said that. We're always able to turn a dollar no matter what situation we're in. No matter what situation we're in, we can figure out a way to look presentable in front of the others.
As Alexis said, these fights, these dresses, this drama, this disrespect to the family and to the elders is not something that is typical of Romanichal functions. In fact, it goes completely against traditional Romanichal values. That's because TLC stages these fights, they stage these events, they stage entire weddings to make this culture out to be something that it is not, for drama purposes. Not only that, most of the people on the show are not even Romani themselves. This show whitewashes Romani culture by hiring white actors to play Romani people, or people of traveler heritage, or people who may have distant Romani heritage. But they are no longer practicing that culture and instead are assimilated into rural white America. These people are no longer claimed by the traditional Romanichal communities and no longer represent that culture.
Something in the TV show that I could tell that they weren't Romani at all was there were no warm moments between them. There were no moments where at the end of the day the family's sitting at the dinner table or around a fire and they're reminiscing, telling stories. If that's missing, it's just a huge part of us. At the end of the day, we all get together, at some point. And if we are together, there's going to be a table with the elders talking. There's going to be calm moments. It's not always loud. And, sometimes it doesn't matter if you hold the traditions and stuff, then, you'll still be respected. But if you lose all those traditions and you lose good representation and you don't care about the true things that we care about, then we view you as a gaji. So if you're taking on, just because you have that ancestor, does not mean you understand what life is like for us, and you don't understand the culture or the language, so you can't be Romanichal. It's impossible.
Romani people have very diverse looks. However, the show portrays Romani people as looking like your average white American, which is simply not the case. At the end of the day, we are from India, and we do have our own unique look.
They're misrepresenting us and even representing the way we look. And then that way, other Romani and other Romani tribes are like, well, all the Romanichal are dead because this doesn't look like a Romanichal person. They're white with blonde hair and blue eyes. I will say that, there is some diversity in Romanichal. Definitely, there's some diversity in there's lighter hair, there's lighter eyes or darker eyes. My sister is this is the winter, but my sister is so much lighter than me, and my brother is so much darker than me. So there can be a variant there. But I still think it's important for people to, just come out and be like, well, I'm half Romanichal and I'm half white, or I'm half Irish traveler and I'm half Romanichal.
That's why the stuff that you see on these shows are the complete opposite of what Romanichal culture and values are actually about. For example, the way people dress, or the way that they carry themselves, the way they talk to their family or to the elders.
Something that I thought was very missing from TLC is the elders, my identity is my grandmother's identity is me. So having an elder there is so important, and we love our elders and we show them off.
Like other Romani communities, Romanichal still wear gold coins, or like their Indian ancestors, they still wear bangles.
Everybody has an elephant in their home, like some sort of porcelain elephant, because we view the elephant as good luck. Horseshoes and horses are good luck. So we very much value our history and any old jewelry passed down. You'll see all Romani tribes coin jewelry. So all of us have some sort of coin piece of jewelry that sometimes is passed down, gold bangles, just stuff like that. We're, very sentimental. So if our family members have ever made something, or an ancestor ever made something, like my Grandfather made some baskets, like we hold on to those baskets, it's very important to us.
Romanichal culture, like every single other Romani group, is centered around these traditional traits that are passed down from generation to generation.
Each Romanichal family has a trade they work in, and they value that trade. Usually that trade's been in the family for generations, and the men pride themselves in their trade. Growing up, the men are on the trade. Sometimes, the children are homeschooled. Sometimes they go to school, but they will take days off to learn the trade because ultimately, the trade is very important. And then as for the women, they stay home, cook, clean, they're homemakers. And historically, like the only work that Romanichal women would really do is peddling, anything they can make with their hands. Just 2 or 3 generations ago, men and women would make baskets, centerpieces for dining room tables. They peddle flowers, they make all different types of flowers, paper flowers. Why I think that's something in all Romanichal like families is that you're good at some sort of craft. A lot of men are really good at woodworking, even today. A lot of women are really good at sewing, crochet, making crochet baby clothes, that's a staple. Paper flowers, and then the home. The home, I think this goes back to like very old traditions and maybe even old religions. Very clean, like clean. Romanichal very much like and believe in cleanliness.
Common in some Romani communities for parents to homeschool their children so that they can pass on these traits to them as well. Unlike what is shown in those shows, that parents take their children out of school and then they just don't care about their education at all. This isn't the case for all Romanichal. Some, like Alexis, have went to college. Similarly to other Romani groups, Romanichal culture puts an emphasis on these family and community events, such as wakes, weddings, and religious ceremonies.
All Romanichal are Christian. There's different types of Christians. Some of them are Catholic, some of them are Protestant, some of them are born-again Christians. That's a big thing, actually. Every Sunday, they'll go to church. But because we believe so much in being like a closed-off community, Romanichal will create their own church meetings. So they may rent out an area to have their own church. And there may even be leaders in the community that are almost like the priests, they'll lead worship. But for funerals, some tradition we have is we'll make big flower arrangements. Sometimes we'll order them and edit them how we'd like, but really big flower arrangements, their name written out. We'll have a long train line of all of us together, and the men will get out their best cars and drive them there. So it's a big week event.
However, these closed community events are not what's represented on this show. Process of courting in Romanichal culture is completely different from what is shown in the show.
Courting, usually they can't really be alone at first when they're together. Sometimes they'll have an older sibling or cousin watch them while they're courting. And then basically the man has to prove himself. He has to prove himself with his trade, prove that he can sell work, and then he has to prove that he's saving up money. He gets usually, we have this thing with white pickup trucks. He has to have a nice truck, and then he has to be able to take her out and treat her well, and be respectful to the other family, and then he has to get blessings from both sides of the family. So after the wake is a whole week, there's some sort of function, and it's really to celebrate and honor that person's life. But that's when so many Romani from all over will come and be there. So it will kind of give a chance for the young people to meet each other. There was something similar on the TV show where if you're at a function and people are dancing, if a man and a woman are dancing, a young couple are dancing, it shows interest in each other. But anything you do at the function is noted. So you have to still act appropriately. So if you're drinking too much, if you're a young girl and you're drinking and getting drunk, like the TLC Gypsies, that's highly looked down upon and not accepted. And sometimes, if that ever happened, I'm sure the parents would get mad and they would take their kids and leave. Any fighting is looked down upon, and anything you do is noted. So if you are acting that way, someone's gonna remember, and so when next time comes around and they have, a nephew that's ready to court someone, they're not gonna recommend the person that was acting that way.
The age at which people are married is also very different as well, even though, as with most Romani communities, it tends to be on the younger side.
Nowadays, like 16, 17 might be too young for a girl. Definitely like 14 is too young. 15 is too young, but 16, 17, they can maybe start to court. It depends on like what the family believes, what both sides believe. And 18 is probably best. 18 is best. You know, the parents feel more comfortable that way.
A very famous traditional trade among Romani people is the crafting or Vardo, which is the traditional Romanichal wagon and very ornate. And as with all communities and all ethnicities, there are problems within the community as well.
I went to college, and that's like kind of like very different because, you know, you're expected to get married and get ready for the next generation. So I think that I've made a lot of my family proud. Things that I think we should leave behind is kind of, I wish sometimes my tribe would kind of open their eyes more, read more books, and learn about other Romani tribes. I enjoy it a lot. But yeah, I wish that some of them would open their eyes a little more to being educated before just being in a constant cycle of get married, stay home, that's all you do, support the man, and then repeat. I want other Romanichal girls to know that, like, you know, the stereotype of us not doing well in school and not being as smart is not true, because I got a bachelor's of science in biochemistry, so they can too. There's other options. But again, I want everyone to still hold on to some traditions and regain some traditions. That would be so cool if we brought back having Vardo to show off, you know, the caravans to show off. Like, there's only a few here that have some in storage, whereas I'd like for people to use them more and see them more often.
So now you've gotten to know the real and beautiful Romanichal culture, a Romani culture that has been too long misrepresented by these fake and racist TLC shows. If you like this video and want to see more authentic Romani culture, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share with all of your friends. Devlesa, or as the Romanichal say, Kushti Divas, Kushti Bok.